Welcome everyone to lesson 2.1 where we are learning about aircraft drawings. In this video we're going to be learning about drawing types and drawing methods. So let's go into this a little bit. I want to start by teaching you the drawing types, and in case you're wondering what the difference is between a drawing type and a drawing method, a drawing type is the information that is shown in a drawing. So, for example, let's just get into it. I'm going to outline 6 of these for you. First of all, we have a detailed drawing. A detailed drawing is a description of a single part, and it's complete. It's drawn to scale, it has dimensions, it has materials, specifications. This right here is a good example of a portion of a detailed drawing. I wasn't able to include the entire drawing because I needed room for my other things, but again, you can see over here that there are dimensions over here. You can see hidden lines, center lines, visible lines. We'll get into all of that in just a little bit. You can even see tolerances right here. That's a great example of a detailed drawing. And again, this is just one part. So go ahead. Got a couple quiz questions for you. Why don't you go ahead and knock them out? Awesome. Thank you for getting those done. Let's jump over to assembly drawing. So we already discussed the detailed drawing and how it's a single part. But another thing worth noting here is that an assembly drawing is like a detailed drawing. It has all the stuff like dimensions and materials and specs, but it covers 2 or more parts. So you can see in this image right here that you have 2 parts that mesh together. And this is, again, it has all the same details. It has the different line types. It has dimensions. It even has notes about manufacturing. That's a great example of an assembly drawing. So just to make sure you understand, I have another quiz question for you. Let's knock it out. All right, thank you for getting that done. Now let's talk about installation drawings for a second. So an installation drawing is a drawing where different assemblies or different groups of parts are brought together and they're shown in the context of the aircraft. There's no dimensions, there's no scale. One great example of this is over here. You can see this aircraft right here, this light sport aircraft, and you can see over here you have the engine compartment and you have different components within it. That's a great example of an installation drawing. You're going to see these very commonly in aircraft maintenance manuals. Assembly and detail drawings, you're going to see that mostly on the engineering side of things, but as an aviation maintenance technician, you're going to see installation drawings a lot. Let's answer a question about installation drawings. Go ahead. Thank you for getting that done. Let's move on to the next slide. We have a few more drawing types, again, information that's being drawn here that I want to show you. We have here something that's called an exploded view. In an exploded view, you'll see very often in illustrated parts catalogs when you're trying to find different parts or you want to see how things are put together. The exploded view is awesome because it shows how parts come together in one assembly or one group of parts that are grouped together. There aren't dimensions, there aren't details, it just simply shows how it comes together. And this picture right here is a great example. You can see the top and the bottom piece that are held together by these bolts. So that's a great example. And this isn't an exploded view, this is actually an assembly drawing. You can see that this very same thing is drawn here orthogonally, which means that it took that 3-dimensional object and put it into 2-dimensional views. And you can see the holes for the top and for the sides like you see right here, and you can see hidden lines marking where the bolts are going to be. You can see where the top and the bottom come together and how there's a line separating the 2 pieces. That's a great example of an exploded view right here, and this is an example of an assembly drawing that covers that exploded view. Again, like I said earlier, you're going to see these exploded views very often in aircraft illustrated parts catalogs, and I have an excerpt of it for you right here. This is the nose gear shock strut assembly. The struts for basically your wheel and gears and stuff. And what you have here is you can see all these different labeled parts that come together to form a greater whole that help provide stability and motion on the runway for our aircraft. So again, that's a great example of an exploded view. Go ahead, Let's answer a question. Thank you for getting that done. Let's move on to pictorial electrical diagrams. So a pictorial electrical diagram shows how different electrical parts are connected. But instead of showing it in like a complicated schematic diagram, which you'll learn more about later in a different aviation maintenance course, what it instead is going to do is it's just going to show you a simplified version showing pictures of the parts instead of using symbols. So if you take a look at this image over here, you can see that instead of having symbols, they actually have images of the switches, they have the ammeters, they have engine starters. They make it so that way it's visually appealing and easy to understand for the non-maintenance types. You'll see pictures like this often in pilots' handbooks and stuff that the pilots use. So that way they have a basic understanding of what's going on, while we, as maintenance technicians, cover the more technical stuff. So again, go ahead, take a moment, answer a question. Thank you for getting that done. Let's go ahead and go to schematic diagrams. So a schematic diagram shows how parts of a system operate and function together. You're going to notice that this is different than some of the other drawings you've seen. You don't see dimensions, you don't see hidden lines or anything like that. What you essentially see is a diagram that shows how everything connects together. And you're going to notice that arrows are often used to show that. And what I have right here is a picture of a hydraulic system. You can see that the hydraulic fluid goes in here and it's inside the hydraulic fluid reservoir, and it is pumped up into this filter. You can see the arrow pointing that it goes that way, and after it's filtered it continues through a pump which is connected to an electric motor to make it function. It pumps through, the fluid goes through this way, pressure regulation. Some of the fluid will go back, but most of it will continue on through here. It'll go through the control system, and then it'll go through the cylinder. After it goes through the cylinder, it circles back around through the control system and eventually makes its way back to the reservoir. So again, you can notice how things here are related by the use of arrows. But you're also going to notice that this is different than the pictorial diagram because the pictorial diagram has actual pictures of the components used, whereas here we're using more symbols for the sake of convenience. So I have a series of questions for you to knock out over here. Let's get them done. Thank you for getting that done. Now that we understand drawing types, let's go ahead and get a little more into it here. Let's look here. What type of drawing do you see right here? Going to pause the video. Go ahead, answer a quiz question. Thank you for getting that done. Let's try another one. What type of drawing is this? Thank you for getting that done. Let's go ahead to the next. What type of drawing is this? And again, let me be clear about this. We're making reference to this drawing right here, this drawing on the left. What type of drawing is this? I included this drawing over here to help you remember that this and this are the same thing in two different types of views. But we're focusing on this one on the left here. What type of drawing is this? Go ahead. Thank you for getting that done. Let's go to the next one. What type of drawing is this? Thank you for getting that done. Let's move on. What type of drawing is this? Thank you for getting that done. Let's move on. And what type of drawing is this? Thank you for getting that done. Let's move on. So now that we've understand the different drawing types and how the drawing types show you what information is being shown, we have drawing methods, and my simple way of explaining it is that the methods highlight what angle you're going to use to show the information that's drawn. Different perspectives on a drawing can give you different pieces of information. And I'm going to share with you a little bit of information relevant to that. First thing you should know is that in anything that we do, there's 6 main shapes that make up the majority of objects, and that's triangles, circles, tubes, cylinders, cones, and spheres. So this isometric image right here is a great example of multiple of these main shapes. You can kind of see these hollow cylinders in here. You can see cube of sorts in here. It's actually a rectangular prism, which is a variation of a cube. You even have triangles. So you have lots of different things going on here. That's a great example of what we're talking about here. But let's get back to drawing methods, because the angle that's used to show the information matters. Although there are many kinds of perspectives, I want to show you two of them in particular. The first one is called orthographic. In an orthographic view, you take a three-dimensional object like this over here, and you're going to break it down into multiple detailed two-dimensional views. So if you were to just look at this object from the front, you can see that you just have this front view right here. And if you were to take that and look at it from the bottom, you could see this right over here. And you're going to notice that right here is something that is called a hidden line. And the reason why you have a hidden line right over here is because from the bottom, you can't see that there's a ridge over here. So the hidden line is used to portray the fact that in that view, you can't see that there's a ridge right here, but it's very obvious that there is one. And then you have your two side views over here. This will be your left view. I think that would actually be your right view, and then this would be your left view over here. Because again, if you look at it from the right side, you'll see that there are two ridges right here. There are two faces right here. But if you look at it from this side, which is option number 3, you're not going to see that there's a ridge right here, so the hidden line is used to show that. Now, if this explanation confuses you, I think there's another way I can show it to you. I rendered this very same object in 3 dimensions just for you, and I want you to take a look right here. I'm going to click over here on this cube, and this gives me what the front of the object looks like. Again, you're going to see just this. If I click over here, this is what my top view is going to look like. You're going to notice that you basically have yourself a rectangle, and there's a line right here that represents this ridge. So that's going to be your top view. Now, if you look at it from the bottom, you're going to notice that the ridge is basically invisible. There's no way to really see it because you don't have the perspective to see it, to see this ridge. So what they do is that along the bottom over here, they put a dashed line showing that there's something that's hidden from you that you need to take into account, hence why they call it a hidden line. And then, again, if you look over here on your right side, you're going to see something. Sorry, let me fix that. You're going to see that you basically have a box with a line in between. Sorry about that. Let me fix that. It looks like for some reason I got out of my software here. And then, if you look over on your left side, you're going to see that you basically have a square with no ridges showing. So that's where the hidden line comes in, because the hidden line is needed to communicate to the user that there is a ridge at about this height, as you can see right here. So again, hopefully that helps you. We're going to get more in the orthographic projections in just a second here. But let's go to isometric. So isometric means that objects are drawn 30 degrees to the horizontal. Now, you look at this and you may have a hard time visualizing this. So what I've done is I've taken this isometric drawing and I put it up to a projector. No, not a projector, a protractor, excuse me. And I'm going to place it on the edge right here. And sorry about that. I'm going to grab this pin right here and I'm going to run it right over here. And let me just make sure I've got everything stationed right here. Whoa. Well, basically what you're going to see is that if you take the angle of this, it's roughly 30 degrees. I'm sorry about the mess over here, technical difficulties, but again, if you take it to the corner and take it to that corner over here, you're going to see that you're in the ballpark of 30 degrees. So in my view, that constitutes an isometric drawing. And you're going to notice that these orthographic projections only will show you one perspective at a time. Front, bottom, right, left. It's going to show you that. But over here on the isometric view, when you skew it at a 30-degree angle, you notice that you could see multiple faces at the same time, and that really helps you to be able to get multiple pieces of information within the same view. You're going to see a lot of these in your manuals. You're going to see them in your Illustrated Parts catalogs. You're going to see a lot of this 30-degree angle stuff with isometrics. But very often they'll engage the orthographic projections where they need more information, and they're going to use the isometric where they can use multiple views and it doesn't skew the information that you have. One last thing with orthographics. On many objects, there are 6 sides. Think of it like a dice. But what you're going to see over here is that this only uses 4 different views. We're only using the amount of views that are necessary to get the object. So if you go back over here, you're going to notice that it's very common for 1, 2, and 3 view drawings to be used in an orthographic projection because that's all the amount of projections you need to get the basic idea of what's going on. I have a couple quiz questions for you. Let's digest this information. Go right ahead. Thank you for getting that done. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into orthographic views. So, I showed you this object earlier. I'm going to ask you a quiz question. Which of these options is the bottom view of the object? Is it number 1, number 2, or number 3? Go ahead, answer the question. Thank you for getting that done. Now let's spice things up a little bit. I'm going to ask you the same question again. Which of these options is the bottom view of the object? Is it number 1, number 2, or number 3? Go ahead. Thank you for getting that done. Now let's finish off with this view right here. You're going to see this object right here. Which one of these options is the bottom view of the object? Is it number 1, number 2, or number 3? Let's go ahead and get that quiz question done. Thank you for getting all of this information done. I'll see you in the next video.